Hi.
Hi, Rasmus. Did you have the meeting last week?
No, I was away last week.
Oh,
Probably, yeah, probably there were no one from Splunk.
I see. Yeah, I'm just seeing here on the Slack that, yeah, I think just Zach and Greg joined. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Let's give those traditional extra minutes for folks.
Do you know if Robert's gonna make it?
Robert?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Let's see if I can ping.
Because I put one thing on the agenda and it's actually related to some changes that he submitted to the SDK project.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay, pinged him. Okay, let's give it 1 minute.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Robert. Hi, Raj. Okay. I think we're almost at the 34 minutes. I think Robert can start. I think the topic that we have regarding the SDK environment variable configuration.
Yeah, so if you want, I can introduce it. So this was, I didn't attend the SDK SIG meeting yesterday, but one of my coworkers did. And so there were some questions for us about the environment variable changes that you were trying to push through on the SDK, Robert. And one of the things that was brought up is that there's no specification to standardize these environment variables across all of the different languages. Yeah,
There is specification.
for those ones.
for these ones which I'm proposing or some other ones?
I don't know all the details. It
All
sounds
the-
like,
All the
In-
ones that I have proposed are in the specification.
okay. So that may be something you'll want to clarify with the SDK SIG, because that was one of the concerns that they brought up, which led to a question of, is this something that should be included in the 1.2 release that they're planning?
Or
which
other
includes
languages,
metrics.
most of other languages like Go, like Python, Java has them included
Already.
out of the
Okay.
box.
Okay.
Like you do not have to do anything if the variables are set; they're simply working without any, setting any methods or things like that.
Right. So what they're trying to do right now is scope their 1.2 release for metrics. And so one of the decisions that they want to make, is this something that should be in scope for that? Or is this something that could be as another experimental release following the 1.2 release? And I didn't have a good answer for that. So I'm bringing that up here.
Okay. So, do you think I should just talk with CGO, or what's the best opinion? Because the problem is that when I was on PTO, basically yesterday, and also there are two like once per 2 weeks I can join. The second one is like 3 a.m. for us or something like that.
Right.
So it's not possible for me. So any
Yes.
suggestions? Who brought it up? Who to speak with? Because I can try to do it on Slack.
I was talking to Alan West, but it's likely CJO, because usually CJO's dealing with scoping the releases.
Okay, so I would try to just start a thread on hotel.net and just reference them. Thank you.
Sorry, my connection was bad. I think I lost a good chunk of it. So, but the idea is that there is some question if stuff is in the spec or not, and you are
Yeah,
going
it
to.
is.
Okay.
It is in the spec.
Okay, so and you are going to follow up with them on Slack.
Yeah.
I got that last sentence. That's what.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then the secondary question is, which release do we need it in? Do we need it in the upcoming 1.2 release, or is this something that can be added in a follow-up release after 1.2?
That's my guess, but I think we should target 1.2, right? It will be a official release, and then I don't know when they will have an official release.
When they want to make the release, Chris?
I think they want to make.
I don't know.
I think they want to make by the time .NET 6 is released, so the clock is really running down. So probably I think October, at most November.
Okay. So I have some time because one of my PRs needs some follow-ups, and I just want to make sure that the concerns are addressed because I basically extended the API. I added some public classes, and they want to have so all these types that I have introduced that are parsing this environment variables are public, but then as far as understand, CGO prefers to have them internal, even if contrib will need to copy paste them.
I see.
That's
I see.
basically his preference, which I'm okay with.
Okay.
Yeah, and there might be another question as well, and this is likely related to the spec question, where they wanted to pull out some of the environment variable settings into a separate assembly. The assumption there was that if the specifications aren't finalized for those environment variables, that they didn't want it to be in any of the the 1.0 assemblies. They want it to be in more of a beta assembly or alpha assembly,
I see.
Okay,
if that makes sense. So I think having a direct conversation with Cijo will likely expedite some of these things.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
okay. The next topic that I have here is the demo from Raj. I think later we can go over the PRs. I think the demo will be more interesting. If you can go ahead, Raj.
Sure, Paulo. Just to give the context, last week we had last week we had a discussion that we are going to take a small look at how to use the startup hook to bring the OpenTelemetry SDK. So I just have a prototype of that with a console application. So I'm just going to show that to you. So confirm if you're able to see my screen so that I can bring up the Visual Studio. Okay, cool. Okay, so first thing I'm going to show is like I have a very simple console app. We might have seen this console app many times. This is a copy from the like the OpenTelemetry SDK itself. All I have here is just to create few activities. The same sample what we have in OpenTelemetry SDK, nothing fancy here. And the only thing is that this has I have a like a diagnostic version specified here. So I will speak about why we need this. So apart from that, if I just run this, it's not going to do anything because we don't have an OpenTelemetry listening here. So, oh, sorry, I have something special done there. I did not remove that. So, sorry, once again. So we don't like, I don't know what is going on. Like we should not. Yeah, this is a normal console application, and then we create a lot of activities here. And as we don't have any OpenTelemetry listener here, nothing gets logged. So what I do here is there is a concept called as .NET Startup Hook that gets like even called before our main is invoked. So that can be enabled by an environment variable called as like .NET Startup Hooks. So I just provided what is the library of our startup hook URL over here. So the moment what I've done using the startup hook is I'm bringing the OpenTelemetry console exporter and like attaching to this console project. So I don't have any special code or anything in this console app apart from this environment variable. So with this small change, if you look at it, I don't know like why it is not picking up for the first time. Yeah, it is picking up like, and you could see like console exporter is working and we could see the data. So no modification is required to the project at all. So if I just need to speak up, there are two projects, important projects I use here. One is this class. This is a normal class library, which brings just the OpenTelemetry console package to it. There is nothing in it. And if I go to the class library, I just have only one method called enable, where I just enable the OpenTelemetry console exporter over here. So nothing fancy here. Only one method in this whole class library. And this is my startup hook. In the startup hook, all the code, important code should get inside this initialize. That's the concept. So, and it should not be inside any of the namespace. The startup hook class should be named as startup hook and it should not be inside any namespace. So here, all I'm doing is I'm loading the OpenTelemetry instrumentation library, what we created here, and its dependencies. So what it's going to load is it's going to load all these libraries over here, that specific class library and all open telemetry and its dependencies, including the console exporter. So we know in .NET, whenever we load from an assembly, it's going to load only that specific file. So in order to load the dependencies, I have a assembly resolver to do that work for us. And once that is done, all I'm doing is I'm using a reflection to call the enable method over here. So this is an assembly load of OpenTelemetry auto instrumentation, this class library. And this code is nothing but reflection, C# reflection to just load the enable here. So all I've done is I just built these two things and reference the startup hook library here, which makes the entire exporter thing working here with the like instrumentation, auto instrumentation over here. So there is a one caveat in this. If you look at it, I'm using a .NET Framework 5 in my console app. So, but the OpenTelemetry brings diagnostic, the OpenTelemetry brings a diagnostic source 6 preview version. So if I don't have this one here, it will crash the app because .NET 5 by default loads a diagnostic source version 5. If we don't have this, when we OpenTelemetry loads, it will try to load a diagnostic source 6 version and we will crash. In order to avoid that, I have like this entry over here, the diagnostic source package version. So there is another implementation where this could be avoided. That is what this console application does. So if you look at it, this console application, I don't have a diagnostic source at all. And it is the same programming.cs, same instrumentation, no change in the code. But in the launch setting.json, I have a shared store, like which is a runtime store. We call it as runtime store, and an additional depths. So I have it over here. In the additional depths, what I'm saying is, hey, I have a like a I'm just trying to see if I can bring this. Yeah. All I'm just saying is I have a diagnostic source 6 and how you can locate that. This is the depths for that. And it will, after looking into the runtime .NET Core runtime probing path, it just goes and looks into the additional store which we have specified. So it just goes here and looks at the diagnostic source. And whichever is the highest version, it tries and picks it from here. So this is the, so in this case, like if you look at it, I'm switching it here. I don't have any diagnostic source. So if I execute without the diagnostic source, it should load the latest version of the one from the runtime store and everything should work as expected. So it is working like a magic here. So like the only problem is this is supported only with in .NET Core. There are several deployment models like self-hosting and framework dependent model. This is supported only with the framework dependent model. The self-hosting does not understand this two variable. So self-hosting by default brings a diagnostic source as a part of it. So still we have a challenge like what we did in the other one. So I thought like I wanted to show the power of both the startup hook and how we could even rely on the like a runtime store with an additional depths in this demo. So so now I'll take the question if you guys have any questions about these things.
So the main drawback is that it doesn't work with .NET Framework, right?
Yes, it does not work with .NET Framework. Yes.
Yeah, and just to confirm, you said that the startup hook works with all .NET Core versions, but the last two that you are selecting right now, they work only 5 and above.
It works 3.1
3.1
and
as well.
above.
Yep,
3.1 and above. Yeah.
all supported versions of .NET
Yes.
Core.
Okay. Okay.
And then the other caveat here is that this wouldn't allow us to do bytecode instrumentation. For that, we still need to leverage the profiler hooks. So there's multiple sets of environment variables that would need to be configured in order to get things to work.
So again, last time, we had a discussion on that architecture guide, document. So I had a discussion with Riley and I had him review that. That's where the question was raised related to the CLR, IE and everything. So we had an internal discussion, myself and Riley had it. So he decided to review that because he has done some work on that CLR part in the past. So he helped review that. So the one question with whatever the approach we have it is if we are planning to use CLR, IE, it is fine. If not, the approach, whatever we have, we can be the only profiler that can get attached to the process. So in that way, we will disallow anyone who wants to attach to that process. So I don't know whether that's the right thing to do, but yeah, we can go one step at a time, get this done, and then we could try and bring the CLR, IE at a later point in time to that space.
Yeah, and even if we did the CLR IE approach, even if we went down that road, we could only interact with other cooperating profilers. If there's two things that somebody wants to use that requires bytecode manipulation, then that still wouldn't be supported with CLR IE, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, they need to somehow cooperate and understand what each other is doing, So, yeah. One thing that crossed my mind is that this approach is kind of, in a sense, is not only for auto instrumentation, right? You could potentially have this a way of hooking up the SDK to things that are already instrumented. Let's say you have Azure Function or AWS Lambda, and you could use the hook just to kind of light up the OpenTelemetry data, right? So independent of auto instrumentation, that's something that this could be used, this approach. I keep thinking about so this is just this is for .NET Core. So the good thing is that it solves the problem about applications that we don't have access to the build time chains, because we can just add the environment variable and bring the dependence. So that's the thing. It's much simpler than trying to change depths JSON or anything like that, or try to, but binding redirection is just for the framework. But it's much simpler than dealing with depths JSON. So
but we need to also think about there are several things we need to solve here also. It's not, even though it looks very simple and everything neat. One is the diagnostic source. What happens if customer brings it in a self-contained application? How are we going to upgrade it? So the one approach I liked is what we have as a vendor diagnostic source, implementation that is been in the previous repo. So we could try something like that. Second thing is, what happens if customer brings an OpenTelemetry API with them? So we are bringing one version, if customer brings another version. So how are we going to handle it? So right now we can handle it in a different way. This is a kind of something we do internally for the other product. So we use an IL merge tool. So whatever the SDK that auto instrumentation brings, so we merge all the libraries, APIs and SDK we wanted, we create a set of it and bring that as a different library to the runtime. So with that capability, what we need to do is if we find out like OpenTelemetry API or SDK within the customer process already, we should be disabling that and enabling only the auto, like whatever the library we bring, that should only collect the data. So these are the few things that we need to explore in this area. Like looking at a very simple demo, like it looks simple, but it's not too much of work to get the other things done also. It's little simpler thing to get those done.
Yeah, I think I see the value of the approach, and as Chris mentioned, we also need the other. So let me say, perhaps I'm starting with a very kind of broad perspective, but it's kind of, I would love if we have a way to eliminate the profiler, but we can't get to that just with the startup hooks. The startup hooks helps with the problem of the versioning, but we also have similar problems for other stuff like the instrumentations themselves, right? So we need also to bring those dependencies. We can bring you with the hook. I'm almost sure there is no limitation to that, but we still need to do the instrumentation, the bytecode instrumentation. So I think that this is a area that we should be exploring and trying to put on the roadmap. That's what comes to my mind. But since we still need the profiler, we can't. Perhaps we can, for instance, delegate the initialization from the profiler to the hook, but we still have the question about the instrumentation. So we still need the profiler. So I would say that in the short run, is nothing. It's not gonna solve the problem to the point that we can kind of move away or get rid of the profiler. Once more, I think there's a lot of value on this, but on the other hand, if I look at the next steps ahead, I see like we still need the profiler. So we can't eliminate the profiler. Should we bring this now, or should we start to explore down the road? The hooks.
Well, so along those lines, Paulo, perhaps an interesting thing for us to consider is splitting what we do for framework support versus .NET going forward. And perhaps there's a simpler thing that can be done for .NET 3.1 and newer, and .NET Framework just kind of remains in the more legacy state, because I suspect going forward, more and more libraries will support OpenTelemetry out of the box.
Yes,
just a thought.
Yes. No. I think makes sense. I think I have in my mind that if the things go as well with OpenTelemetry, and I think they are going to, because the involvement of the runtime and all the support there, I think in, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, there will be not that much need for bytecode instrumentation. I think the question is what happens in kind of 2 years and 3 years that we need that kind of to get the OpenTelemetry, but adoption, I mean. But I agree. I think in some time window, my guess, as I said, I'm going 5 years, but my guess is that the bytecode instrumentation loses a bit of importance given the support of the runtime.
Yeah, because right now a couple of big gaps would be Postgres support and GraphQL.
MySQL as well, I think.
Okay.
The same problem that I remember some thread in I don't know Microsoft, I think, even a repository like organization, that there are no standard forms how to instrument the DB connection, right? Basically how to use the diagnostic source for DB code. I think
I
that's
see.
why, that's the main reason why it's not done yet, both in Postgres and MySQL, because there are no official recommendations.
I see. But on the other hand, I always confuse the B command with the other one, but the B command is the general one, right? It's
Correct,
not the one
the
specific.
abstract one. And
yeah.
SQL command is for SQL Server.
Yes. So, but for instance, if we try to push and I think directly on the runtime with the implementation, use diagnostic source, perhaps that will be accepted, you know, and then it becomes part of the next release of .NET. So, but in between that happens, and in between that version is shipped, we need auto instrumentation for that. We need bytecode instrumentation for those. So until that happens, we need the profiler.
At the same time, what was demoed is pretty compelling when you have applications that you don't need bytecode instrumentation for.
Yes, 100% agree. I really like that. It's a really nice way. It solves kind of the DevOps scenario, because you just need a set of files, organize the folders, and set an environment variable. And then
and I also think you get a perf win with that as well, because you're not relying on the profiler disabling certain things in order to get things to work. So all of a sudden you got tiered compilation working. And
one question that I have, Raj, what happens, and we are not addressing that, but if you know how the hooks work regarding ahead of time compilation, you know, I'm guessing is that they don't work, but I would
No,
like
they
to
don't
know.
work. It is after the compilation.
But we are also not addressing ahead of time compilation, you know. So it's just a scenario that for us right now is out of reach. As I mentioned in the PR, I'm not that concerned right now with ahead of time compilation, because typically this is for client applications. I didn't encounter much people publishing server applications use .NET Publish, Reddit or something. I forgot the command, but there is a way to already publish ahead of time compilation. And I know that the runtime is investing more on that, but I don't find that much people trying to use that in practice right now for several applications at least. But yeah, that is a gap in any technology that we use for doing this. Let me just take one kind of side track here. All this gets back to the thing about the support of aspect-oriented programming in .NET that we kind of it lacks. There are some libraries that people can implement, but it's not from the runtime. And I think this is the biggest thing that makes the instrumentation for .NET be much harder than Java. You know, we need the profiler. That's a very specific technology, a very specific set of skills. That need to be in place to be able to implement that. So if you look, we have the support of the profiler with the call target instrumentation. duck typing, and all that things to make this work. And in Java, a Java programmer can sit down that understand the model and write just Java code, and the thing works. You know? But that is an aside. Perhaps we should start to poke .NET folks for in .NET 7.0 to have some aspect-oriented programming.
Well, so there are libraries out there to deal with aspect-oriented programming in .NET, and they're all using, I forgot what the name of a library is, but ultimately it rewrites the code at build time to inject stuff.
I looked at this many years ago. I don't remember, but they required a bunch of things, like you have to serialize all the objects and a bunch of maybe they evolved it. You know, maybe
Depends.
they evolved.
Depends. The one that Chris mentions, do not record it because it uses Cecil. The one that you mentioned,
Yeah.
I think, uses reflection emit. These ones usually require serialization.
Yeah, so the ones using build, I think, are much more acceptable, and probably they will have a chance to working with ahead of time compilation. So that is a plus. But that's a side note, you know, kind of. It's just a thing that in general has been a thing in our path to make progress, you know. So yeah, okay, back on track. Sorry.
So I will just put this in my GitHub repo and add the link to the doc URL where I have it. So it will be easier for everyone to take a look.
Great.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. I think bringing that up is a very good idea. Bring a different perspective and something that perhaps we can combine with something else to
Yes.
use. You know.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's enough value in it to have it be its own thing as an option for people potentially. Because it's sort of a hybrid of the DevOps scenario where you minimally touch your setup and you don't get all of the weight of the profiler affecting your application performance as well. So
Yeah.
just throwing that out there.
Basically, I think that I was talking on the .NET SIG meeting that maybe in the .NET SDK we'll create an assembly that basically contains all the stuff needed for this environmental variables. And then somebody can use it just in the start have group, even without using, the auto instrumentation in theory.
Yeah. That's an interesting idea because we can make that code common and just keep in one place, you know. And even
Yeah,
if
that's why I prefer to contribute there for the environmental variables.
Yeah.
The only like hard thing I think which Raj showed is this assembly resolving, which maybe I don't know should be extracted somewhere. I don't know, or just some example should be in an example. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think one thing we should at least add some notes about this for our path and in the docs, because it's something that we definitely want to explore. One scenario that I think it's very valuable is especially kind of function and lambdas, because typically people are really looking at minimize startup time and also minimize the amount of code that you deploy. So you can keep your OpenTelemetry that you don't update frequently there together with the other shared libraries, and just update your DLL, and startup is not that much affected and things just work, you know. Yeah. I think it's very good. Thanks, Raj, to bring that up and doing the demo. I want to be sure that I want to be sure. I would like to try to keep you and Microsoft involved with this project. We have to put a roadmap that we are trying to achieve now, kind of in the short run. That's publishing an alpha with a few bytecode instrumentations and supporting some of the I'm calling source code instrumentations. But if you wanna talk more about not today, but or it could be via Slack, whatever you prefer. What Microsoft goals are in regarding this project, and to see if we can also loop that in. So the more people participate and the more companies involved, the better. So want to be sure that that's considered for what we are planning to do.
Makes sense, Paulo. So this is like a kind of bigger discussion for me to have speak with many teams. So I am from from the same team as of Cijo, and Riley in Microsoft. But this needs a discussion at the .NET level also, because we need a more of help from a .NET rather than the SDKs level, this monitoring SDK levels. So I will have that. But I had a talk with one of the PMs already from the .NET. He was willing to work with him in this forum. So let me get back to them and check how much bandwidth, if they can put it right now, to come and help us here.
Okay, sounds very good.
And also, if we can also document somewhere, these are the asks, and maybe not in a README somewhere. These are the asks that we have from the .NET. I can help take it to them and bring them here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we have to organize ourselves a little bit better in that regard, to kind of think about things that perhaps the .NET folks themselves can bring directly. But I think that will be great.
Yeah. Right now, they don't see a need to jump in, because they are not seeing that there are any asks from this community that we need .NET to solve some issues. So once we have some lists, so I can help you go back, get back to them and get them to this community.
All right, sounds very good. Robert and Chris, just for my benefit, I would like to know this aspect-oriented programming using Sasio that kind of does that build time. I will be curious to take a look. So if you guys can send me the link later, I would like to take a look.
Yeah, I'll try to dig up what I had looked at before.
Yeah, I remember a lot of things with based kind of reflection and stuff like this. And you had, I don't remember, it was a long time ago, but you had to make stuff serializable, and you didn't have really good access to the parameters of the methods. There was kind of, it was not smooth, All right, so I think we should take a quick look at the PRs.
Yeah, Paulo, one question I have before that. I just take a look at the repo and understood there is that vendored library approach for the diagnostic source. So I just wanted to see, I did not find it's complete. So I might be incorrect also. Was that been tried ever in this repo or tested, that part of the solution?
Sorry, I'm not sure if I understand. We are working on the POC branch, so that's the branch that we are focusing, and
Okay.
we tested loading the SDK from on that branch using the profiler.
Okay. I got it.
Yeah. So that's where the work is doing. By the way, for us, it's something that we should do relatively soon. We should switch our main branch to be the one based on the POC.
Got it.
That will make clear for people coming to the repo where the work is happening. You know, right now we still have the main following upstream. That can be confusing for people just seeing the repo. Okay.
That's it from my side.
Okay, let's go to the open pull requests. And I was out last week. I didn't see much what happened. So let me share here. Okay, let's start with the older one. This was by David. He's adding loader tests. I see that Zach reviewed. So can you guys describe to me what's the issue here? I didn't see this before.
Yeah, so I just took a look at it this morning and I saw that at least the Linux build and the Mac build is failing. And it's probably just a build order thing or a build dependency thing to resolve.
Yeah, the loader is a resource that is injected on the native one. So if that's the case, yeah, we need to build that first.
Yeah, and that might have stemmed from comments I was making. Instead of using or checking in binaries, to just include the source and build it with the test project. So I haven't checked since then. It's been like a week since I last checked in on this.
Yeah,
I
so
see.
both the source and the binaries are in source control at the moment.
Okay. And I suppose that the intention is to have just the sources in the end.
I believe so.
Yeah. Well, if it's not that, let's move to that in the end. Okay. We follow up in the PR with David. So Rasmus, this one is still work in progress.
Yeah, so basically that's in work in progress because of the two images. One is the Linux and one is macOS image that are failing. And the Linux image runs fine in local environment, but doesn't attach the profiler in the GitHub Actions. And macOS is just complaining about the mine method. And so that's why I opened today another peer that's updating the full native layer. So I hope that's the fix for macOS. But there is one question for Zach probably.
Yeah, I can take a look at this. If you're pulling in latest from our native side, there's definitely been a lot of changes. Oh, right, that particular AppSec stuff is some newer code that we have. It's gonna be completely unrelated from the tracing.
I see. Yeah. So this I in one hand probably not needed for OpenTelemetry because we don't do that kind of analysis. But on the other hand, I don't know how easy it is to kind of isolate and separate those and perhaps not bring. You know, that's the question that comes to my mind.
I could try and take a look at some of the issues that you have in the other branch. maybe we don't have to pull in so many changes to get it working. But yeah, I'll go take a look in the GitHub actions and try and see if anything in the failures makes any sense. I assume they have the actions kind of related. It shows the results in the PR. It links to them. at least.
Okay, yeah, that will be great, Zach. If you could do that, that will be great. Perhaps we can target better the update or anything like that as a result of you taking a look on those.
Yeah, and we were trying to go through this issue with John Blay, and he mentioned that under Windows, when CLR profiler is attaching it, emits an event log, but under Linux there is no implementation for that. So do you know any like good ways how to debug why the profiler is not attaching? Or
So-
Go ahead.
One of the things that I do when I'm testing if it's going to attach or not is just running LDD on Linux, and I assume it's a utility on Mac as well, which, because sometimes, specifically for like Alpine, there's maybe a library doesn't resolve, and so that's the most common issue I've seen as to why it doesn't attach. Is it just fails to load the profiler library because there's a missing system dependency. That's like the first thing I think to do. After that, I don't know. A lot more complicated.
Do we have any .NET event for that? No, right? The old now we can enable on Linux, but I don't know if there is a provider for that information about the profiling attached. I will show you the tool, Rasmus, offline. But there is a tool that lists a bunch of events that you can monitor from .NET. It works on Linux, but my question is, I don't know if there is something that will be really telling you like the equivalent of the event viewer saying, hey, a profiler was attached. You know, that is my question that I actually don't know from the top of my mind. And on that note about LLDB, I think we should start getting our toes deeper there, because most of these things people run actually in VMs that are running Linux. So it would be a good opportunity for us to do that. All right. Anyone wants to bring anything else up? All right. Good to be back to work then for me. But my vacations were good. Any break is good. So, all right, guys. See you around.
See you.
You guys.
do